It all began with a sentence that no one expected to hear from Can Yaman, the man who once defined love as his greatest strength. But this time, his voice carried a tone that was sharper, colder, almost defiant. When he said, "This isn't love anymore, this is rebellion," even the people closest to him froze. It wasn't just a phrase, it was a declaration of war against everything he once believed in. For months, the world had followed the story of Can and Sara Bluma. Their chemistry had been undeniable, their appearances together setting the internet on fire. Every photo, every glance, every unspoken moment between them was dissected by fans, trying to understand what truly connected them. But behind the camera flashes and perfect smiles, there was tension, a quiet battle between pride and emotion. Those who knew them closely said that something had changed. Sara had challenged Can in a way no one had before. She had said something that pierced through his calm, something that made him question her intentions and his own boundaries. It wasn't about jealousy, nor betrayal. It was about control, power, and the fine line between love and submission. According to a close source, one evening things reached their breaking point. Can looked her straight in the eyes and said, "If you want to stay, you'll have to play by my rules." The room fell silent. Sara didn't argue. Not because she agreed, but because she couldn't believe what she was hearing. The man who once promised unconditional love was now setting conditions, and they weren't small ones. That night, she left his house without a word. There were no tears, no dramatic goodbye. Just a quiet closing of the door and the echo of everything left unsaid. But that silence was louder than any argument they'd ever had. Because in that silence, Can realized something. He was done losing himself for someone else's comfort. This time, it wasn't about being right or wrong, it was about reclaiming the part of him that love had taken away. And while the world kept speculating, while fans tried to piece together what went wrong, Can Yaman had already made his choice. This was no longer a story of love. It was rebellion, his rebellion against everything that once broke him. In the days that followed, silence became their only form of communication. Sara didn't call. Can didn't reach out. Yet, somehow, both of them felt the other's presence in every heartbeat. The tension wasn't about distance, it was about pride. And that pride was now stronger than their love. Friends who saw Can during those days said he wasn't angry. He was calm, too calm. That dangerous kind of calm that hides a storm beneath the surface. He was filming during the day, smiling for cameras, playing the charming actor everyone adored. But the moment the lights went off, his expression would change. He'd stare into the distance, replaying her words, her look, that night when everything shifted. The condition he had given Sara wasn't about control the way people imagined. It was about loyalty, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken, but shown. He had told her, "I don't want you to choose me. I want you to choose honesty." It sounded simple. But it wasn't. Because honesty meant facing the truth. And the truth was, they both had secrets they hadn't confessed. Sara, on her side, felt torn. She wasn't used to being told what to do. She was independent, proud, and unafraid to walk away if she felt cornered. But this time, it wasn't that easy. She had feelings for Can that went beyond reason. That was why his words hurt, not because they were cruel, but because they came from someone who once promised he'd never make her feel small. Behind the scenes, journalists started whispering. Headlines began to appear, tension between Can and Sara, the couple facing a silent breakup? But neither of them confirmed nor denied anything. Instead, Can posted a cryptic message on his Instagram story: "Love without respect is just chaos dressed beautifully." It was enough to ignite the internet. Fans filled comment sections, trying to guess who the message was for. Sara remained silent, not a single word, not even a photo. But those who paid attention noticed something. She had stopped liking his posts. In their world, silence was louder than words. Every unfollow, every missed like, every absence became a headline. But for Can, this wasn't a game anymore. He wasn't trying to win. He was setting boundaries, not for her, but for himself. And deep down, Sara knew it. She knew this wasn't about rebellion against her, it was rebellion against the part of himself he had lost before, in a love story that once broke him beyond repair. By the third week, what had started as silence had become a spectacle. Every magazine wanted a headline, every reporter wanted a quote. "Is it over?" became the question echoing across Europe. Can refused every interview. He smiled, deflected, said nothing. But sometimes silence speaks louder than words, and his silence was deafening. Sara, meanwhile, was unraveling under the weight of curiosity and judgment. People had painted her as the villain, the reason for the distance, the one who broke the unbreakable. But no one knew what truly happened behind those closed doors. And Sara, for once, was tired of being misunderstood. One night, while attending a private dinner in Milan, she was asked a simple question by a journalist who had somehow managed to sneak in: "Do you still love him?" The question hit her like lightning. For a second, she froze. Cameras were already turning, flashes ready to capture her reaction. And then she whispered something that made the entire room fall silent. "Love doesn't disappear. It transforms. Sometimes into pain, sometimes into pride." That was the first time she had said anything about him in weeks. The quote went viral within minutes. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Sara speaks, hashtag Can and Sara trended across social media. People started choosing sides, hashtag Team Can and hashtag Team Sara. As if it were a movie they all had a ticket for. But behind that chaos, Can saw the video. According to someone from his team, he watched it alone, replaying her words over and over again. He didn't call her. He didn't send a message. But he saved the clip. That alone said enough. Days later, he posted again, a single photo of himself walking alone by the sea with the caption, "You can't fight for peace and feed the war at the same time." It was cryptic, poetic, and painful. Fans debated for hours. Some said it was directed at Sara. Others said it was his way of saying goodbye. But deep down, those who really knew him sensed the truth: he wasn't done. He was just protecting what little of his heart was left unburned. The story wasn't over. It was just entering a new chapter, one where rebellion and love were starting to look dangerously similar. It happened one evening in Rome. Ken was attending a charity gala. Elegant suit, calm smile, cameras flashing from every direction. It was supposed to be just another public appearance. But when a reporter asked about Sara Bluma, everything changed. He didn't walk away this time. He didn't smile politely or pretend not to hear. He stopped. Looked straight into the cameras. And for the first time in weeks, he spoke her name. "Sara is brave," he said slowly. But sometimes, bravery is just another way to hide fear. The crowd went silent. It wasn't anger in his voice, it was something deeper. Something that sounded like heartbreak disguised as wisdom. Every outlet replayed that moment. Every word was analyzed. What did he mean? Was he forgiving her, or exposing her? The internet went wild. Sara saw it too. She didn't post, didn't comment. But people close to her said she cried when she saw the clip, not because of what he said, but because of the tone he used. That same night, Ken went home alone. His phone was full of messages, directors, friends, reporters, but he ignored them all. He sat on his balcony, the city lights reflecting in his glass, and whispered to himself, "Rebellion isn't about her. It's about me." That was the truth. All along, this had never been about punishing Sara. It was about confronting the man he had become, the one who had built walls so high even love couldn't climb them. Meanwhile, Sara, miles away, finally broke her silence in a post that stunned everyone. She uploaded a black and white photo of herself with a caption that read, "If love needs rules, maybe it was never freedom." Within minutes, the world exploded. The post reached millions. Fans flooded both their pages, begging for answers, for reconciliation, for peace. But none came. Not yet. Because both of them knew, before there could be peace, there had to be truth. And that truth was still waiting to be said. Days turned into weeks. The noise started to fade, the headlines slowly shifted to new scandals, new faces. But for Can and Sara, the silence wasn't peace, it was pressure. Both had spoken, but neither had said what truly mattered. The words they were too proud to say were the ones that kept them awake at night. Then, one evening, something unexpected happened. Sara received a handwritten letter delivered to her apartment in Milan. No name, no return address, just her initials written in black ink. She knew the handwriting instantly. It was him. Inside, there were only a few lines. You once said rebellion begins when love ends. But maybe love is the only rebellion that ever mattered. See? Her hands trembled. For a long time, she just sat there, staring at those words. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession. It was something deeper, a surrender, but without defeat. She took a photo of the letter, not to post, but to keep. A memory of something that was real, even if it didn't last. Meanwhile, that same night, Can was seen driving along the coast outside Rome. Alone. The city lights fading behind him, his phone turned off. For the first time in months, he wasn't running from questions, he was running toward silence. Because sometimes silence is the only place where the truth still breathes. Friends close to him later said he had made peace with what happened. He doesn't hate her, one of them shared quietly. He just finally understood that love without balance always becomes rebellion. Sara, too, changed. She stopped avoiding questions, stopped denying what everyone already knew. When asked in a new interview about Can, she smiled softly and said, "Some people come into your life to teach you what love is. Others, to teach you what it's not." The interviewer went quiet. There was no need for more. The world understood. In the end, there were no grand reunions, no dramatic confessions. Just two souls who met at the wrong time, burned too brightly, and walked away carrying a piece of each other that no one else will ever touch. And maybe that was the real rebellion, not walking away from love, but daring to live after it.